Have you ever felt so lost that it seemed impossible to find a way out? Have you ever experienced a night so dark that even hope seemed to hide? It's in these moments that we ask ourselves, is there really a light at the end of the tunnel? Many say that suffering makes us stronger, but how can you believe that when everything around you seems to be falling apart? And what if I told you that, in the deepest darkness, the light you need might come from where you least expect it? Perhaps you are on the verge of discovering a strength you never imagined you had. Want to know how? The answer is closer than you think, and it could change everything.
The sky darkened quickly, as if a leaden cloak were being cast over the city. Ashley, a dedicated librarian and book lover, watched the approaching storm through the window of the old library in her town. The winds began to blow fiercely, and the first signs of rain appeared in heavy drops that splattered against the glass. The sound of nature in fury echoed like a warning, but the young woman couldn't pull herself away from the books surrounding her. It was there that she felt at home, where each turned page transported her to different worlds, far from everyday worries. "I can't just close the doors and leave," she murmured to herself while arranging a shelf. Someone might need shelter. With a soft sigh, she decided to stay a little longer. She had always been someone who valued knowledge and culture, and the thought that someone, even just one person, might benefit from her presence comforted her. Looking around, she noticed that a few visitors were still in the library, engrossed in their readings. An elderly lady with white hair and wise eyes was leafing through a cookbook, while a young student was focused on studying for an exam. "The hurricane is approaching, Mrs. Margaret. Can I help you find what you need?" Ashley asked, addressing the elderly woman. "Oh dear, don't worry about me. I'm used to storms," the lady replied, smiling gently. "But if you could help me find the apple pie recipe, I'd love that." Ashley smiled, and as she moved through the shelves, the wind howled outside, making the windows rattle. The sound of the hurricane intensified, as if the library itself was responding to nature's fury. When she finally found the book Margaret was looking for, a chill ran down her spine as she heard a loud crash, followed by sudden darkness as the lights began to flicker. "We need to prepare for the worst," Ashley said, trying to stay calm. "Let's go to the basement, where we'll be safer." The lady nodded, and together they walked towards the staircase leading to the library's basement. The air was heavy, and the tension was palpable. Upon reaching the bottom, Ashley lit a lantern, revealing a dusty space filled with boxes and old books that seemed to hold secrets of the past. The flickering light cast dancing shadows on the walls. "You know, my grandmother used to say that books have a soul," Margaret remarked, looking around. "They carry the stories of those who wrote them and those who read them." Ashley felt a tightening in her heart upon hearing those words. She had always believed that books were more than just objects. They were windows into the human soul. At that moment, an even stronger crash reverberated, making the library shake. The young woman held the elderly lady's hand, trying to offer comfort. "Stay close to me. Everything's going to be fine," Ashley said, though she felt butterflies in her stomach. Amid the chaos outside, something in the library drew her in. The smell of aged paper, the texture of the books in her hands, all of it made her feel alive. While Margaret tried to calm down, Ashley began to look around, searching for something that might distract them. That's when she noticed a box in a corner, covered in dust. What could be in here? She wondered aloud. She approached and, upon opening the box, found a dusty journal, its pages yellowed with age. Ashley's heart raced. It seemed like a precious find. Carefully, she began to leaf through the pages, and the words written in elegant handwriting immediately drew her in. "Look, Margaret, I found a journal," Ashley said, unable to contain her excitement. "It looks very old." The elderly lady leaned in, curious. "Ah, that's fascinating. Journals are like windows into the soul of those who wrote them." Ashley smiled, feeling an instant connection with what she was about to discover. As she opened the journal, the storm raged outside. But there in that basement, surrounded by a world of words and stories, she felt she was about to embark on a journey that could change her life forever. Ashley was absorbed in the pages of the journal. Each word seemed to echo in her soul, as if the author were speaking directly to her. The wind howled outside, and the library trembled under the force of the hurricane, but inside, enveloped by the faint light of the lamp, she felt safe. The chronicles of love and loss she read transported her to another time, where emotions were intense and challenges profound. She took a deep breath, feeling the connection with the author, a person who, like her, sought to understand love amid pain. "How did you manage to find so much strength in such difficult times?" she murmured to herself, as her eyes scanned the lines written in elegant handwriting. "What would I do to have that courage?" The words danced in her mind, and Ashley found herself reflecting on her own life. What was stopping her from being truly happy? Lucas, her boyfriend, had always been a pillar in her life, but there was always a shadow of doubt in her feelings. The chronicles spoke of lost loves, of the need to free oneself from what didn't bring happiness. A knot formed in her stomach at the thought of Lucas. He supported her, but did he really understand her? "It's time to be honest with yourself, Ashley," she said aloud, almost as if the author were encouraging her. "You deserve more than this." She remembered moments when she felt suffocated by her own insecurities, like when Lucas discouraged her from participating in a book fair, claiming it was too risky. At that moment, the passion and courage she saw in the chronicles seemed distant, as if they belonged to someone else in another world. The storm outside seemed like an echo of her own internal storm. She quickly flipped through the journal, eager for more words that could guide her. In one passage, the author described a love that overcame adversity, a love that grew stronger through pain. "True love is not afraid to face the storm," he wrote. That resonated deeply with Ashley. "Yes, I want that," she whispered, determined. "I want a love that makes me feel alive, not a love that makes me doubt myself." With a new perspective, Ashley looked around the library. The shelves full of books seemed like guardians of secrets and stories waiting to be discovered. The energy of the place enveloped her, and she realized she was surrounded by stories of overcoming, of resilience. It was as if the library itself was encouraging her to find her voice. Finally, the howling of the wind began to subside, and the hurricane seemed to be passing. The sound of the wind was now softer, almost like a whisper. Ashley stood up, feeling an impulse to face what was coming. It was time to leave that basement and confront Lucas, and perhaps even the world outside. She climbed the stairs slowly, each step more firm than the last. The smell of paper and wood mixed with the fresh air that entered through the broken windows. Upon reaching the first floor, Ashley saw Lucas at the entrance of the library, with a worried expression. He was drenched, his hair disheveled by the storm. "Ashley!" he called out, his voice laden with relief. "I was worried about you. I thought you might have been hurt." She hesitated, her heart racing. "Lucas, I found something in the basement, something that changed the way I see things." "What do you mean?" He frowned, confused. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, but I realize that I need to be more honest with myself. I can't keep ignoring what I feel. What we have doesn't always feel right." Lucas looked at her, his expression shifting from concern to instant defensiveness. "Ashley, that's just the storm talking. Let's go home, and you'll see that everything will be fine." But she could no longer ignore the voice growing inside her. "It's not just that, Lucas. I don't know if what we have is enough. I'm tired of not feeling supported. I need more." A heavy silence hung between them, and Ashley realized that at that moment, everything had changed. She was no longer the same. The hurricane might have passed, but the storm inside her was just beginning. Ashley looked at Lucas, her heart beating faster than usual. They were in the living room, the morning light filtering through the windows, but the atmosphere was charged with tension. The hurricane had passed, but its winds still seemed to blow between them. "Lucas, we need to talk," she began, her voice firm but slightly hesitant. "About what, Ashley?" "You know, this has all been very stressful. I don't think now is the time to argue," he replied, looking away, as if his words were a burden he didn't want to carry. "That's exactly what I want to talk about. What's happening between us," she said, nervously running her fingers through her hair. "I feel different. The journal made me think about a lot of things. I want to change. I want to follow my dreams. I feel like I'm stuck." Lucas crossed his arms, his expression hardening. "Change? For what? You have a good job, a stable life. Why complicate everything? This is just a phase, Ashley. You'll get over it." His words hit her like a dagger. Complicate? Lucas, it's not complicating. It's living. I don't want to just exist. I want to be more than a librarian who organizes books, she exclaimed, frustration overflowing in her voice. I want to write, explore, and discover myself. I want to know who I really am. But you already know who you are. You are the Ashley I know, the librarian, he insisted, as if that definition were enough to contain all the complexity she felt. Why are you doing this? Because I realize that I'm not just that. The journal showed me that there's so much more. The author went through hardships, betrayals, but he found strength in himself. I want to have that strength. Ashley was now standing, feeling more determined. I can't stay here without trying. Lucas took a deep breath, clearly frustrated. You're being irrational. This is all just a reaction to what happened with the hurricane. You need to calm down and think clearly. And what if I don't want to calm down? What if I want to follow my heart? Ashley challenged, her gaze fixed on his, seeking some connection, some understanding. You don't get it, Lucas. I don't expect you to change, but I need you to respect my desire to change. The silence between them hung heavy like the air after the storm. Lucas shook his head, as if trying to push her words out of his mind. Ashley, I don't know if this is a good idea. What if you get hurt? What if all of this doesn't work out? You're risking everything for something that might just be a dream. She felt a wave of despair. And what if I don't take the risk? What if I spend my entire life wondering what could have been? The pain of her insecurities began to surface in her voice. I just want you to believe in me, even if I don't know exactly where I'm going. Lucas, however, didn't seem willing to give in. I can't support such an absurd idea. You need to be realistic, Ashley. Life isn't a fairy tale. His voice was growing colder, and Ashley felt a void forming between them. Disconcerted, Ashley decided to step back for a moment. I need some time to think, she said, walking towards the door. I'm going back to the library. I need to reconnect with what really matters to me. Lucas watched her leave, his gaze lost in thought. As the door closed behind her, Ashley felt a mix of sadness and relief. Upon arriving at the library, the familiar scent of books enveloped her like a warm embrace. She climbed the stairs to the basement, where the journal awaited her. Sitting on the cold floor, she opened the journal again, and the author's words began to dance before her eyes. As she immersed herself in the pages, her mind filled with new ideas and emotions. One passage captured her attention. True love is not that which imprisons us, but that which frees us. The words resonated in her heart, and she found herself reflecting on her relationship with Lucas. If love doesn't bring freedom, then what is it? She whispered to herself, as the connection with the author grew stronger. He, too, knew the pain of betrayal, the struggle to find oneself amid chaos. With this new perspective, Ashley began to feel stronger. She wasn't alone in her struggle, and this connection inspired her to move forward, even if the path ahead was shrouded in uncertainty. Ashley was absorbed in her daily tasks at the library, surrounded by shelves full of books that had always been her refuge. The hurricane had passed, but the echoes of its fury still resonated in her mind. As she organized the volumes, an older book caught her attention. It was slightly damaged, its pages yellowed and the cover worn. Curious, Ashley opened it, and to her surprise, a small note fell from its pages. She quickly bent down to pick up the note. The delicate letters, handwritten, brought to life a message that seemed to have traveled through time. Find what is lost, and you will find yourself, the text read. A wave of emotion washed over her. What could that note mean? Who had written it? The author of the journal who had inspired her so much. The words echoed in her mind like a mantra, awakening a deep need to discover what was hidden. With a new purpose, Ashley decided to follow the clue left by the note. It mentioned a specific location, a small park in the city, where old trees intertwined, forming a natural shelter. What could be special about that place? With determination pulsing through her veins, she closed the library and headed to the park. Upon arrival, sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating a pattern of dancing shadows on the ground. The air was fresh and filled with an earthy scent, reminiscent of the rain that had just passed. Ashley walked slowly, feeling increasingly connected to something greater. The place had a magical aura, as if time itself had stopped there. She found a wooden bench, worn by time, and sat down. The silence was deep, almost sacred. With a clearer mind, Ashley began to reflect on everything she had read in the journal. The stories of love and loss had touched her in a way she couldn't ignore. The author had faced immense challenges, but still, his passion for life and writing never diminished. That strength inspired her to confront her own insecurities. As she was lost in thought, a gentle breeze blew, bringing with it the distant sound of children's laughter. Hearing this, Ashley felt a wave of nostalgia. She remembered her childhood, summers spent in parks, the freedom and innocence that now seemed so distant. "That's what I want back," she thought, suddenly standing up. "The freedom to be myself." With a light heart, Ashley decided she needed to return to the library, not just to continue reading the journal, but also to catalog her own emotions, to give voice to her feelings, and perhaps to start a new chapter in her life. As she walked back, a new energy accompanied her. She was determined to discover what she truly wanted and deserved. The note had guided her to this moment of self-discovery. When she arrived at the library, she found Lucas waiting for her. His expression was one of concern, but something in his stance made her hesitate. He was standing with his arms crossed, as if waiting for an explanation. "Ashley, where have you been?" "I was worried," he said, his voice laden with a tension that did not go unnoticed. "I went to a park. I found something that made me reflect," Ashley replied, trying to stay calm. What Lucas didn't know was that this walk had made her question everything she had built with him. "Reflect on what?" Lucas asked, raising an eyebrow as if evaluating her words. "We're still in a difficult time. You shouldn't go out alone." Ashley took a deep breath, feeling the message of the note vibrate within her. "Lucas, I need to understand what I want, what I really want," she said, her voice firm. He frowned. "You're talking about changes again. You shouldn't be carried away by these ideas. We have a plan, don't we?" Lucas's response made her hesitate. What he saw as a plan, she now saw as a prison. The weight of expectations and insecurities was beginning to lift, but his presence still left her confused. "I just need time to think," Ashley said, avoiding his gaze. What she wanted most was freedom, the chance to discover who she was away from Lucas's expectations. But at the same time, the fear of loneliness haunted her. Lucas took a step forward, his expression changing to a mix of worry and determination. "Ashley, you're pulling away from me. What's going on?" The pressure in his voice was palpable, but she knew she could no longer ignore what she felt. "I just need space," she whispered, the decision resonating within her. Whatever was between them, trust was slipping away, and more, Ashley felt she needed to find herself before deciding what to do with the relationship she had. Ashley was in a whirlwind of emotions, her heart racing as she faced Lucas, who looked at her with a mixture of surprise and disdain. The scene she had just witnessed, Lucas talking intimately with another woman, still echoed in her mind. "You betrayed me, Lucas," she said, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and pain. "I saw you with her. How could you?" Lucas rolled his eyes, a gesture that left her even more frustrated. "Ashley, you're being dramatic. I was just talking. You know how things are, don't you? You always feel insecure, and that makes you see things that aren't there." "Isn't there?" Ashley exclaimed, her voice rising. "I saw you, Lucas. There's no way I'm imagining this. You were so close to her, so intimate." The word intimate hung in the air, and Lucas seemed to realize that his words had failed to calm her. "You need to stop making assumptions," he replied, trying to stay calm. "Nothing happened. You know I care about you. If you really cared, you wouldn't have given me reasons to doubt you." The heat of indignation burned in her veins. "You left me confused and insecure. The journal, it helped me see that I deserve more than this." Lucas, realizing that the tone of the conversation was not in his favor, crossed his arms and made a disdainful expression. "That journal, you're being swayed by the words of a stranger? That's ridiculous, Ashley. You need to focus on reality, on us." His response hit her like a punch in the stomach. Ashley felt a wave of desperation, but also a spark of determination. "The reality, Lucas, is that I can't live like this anymore. I have to find myself, understand who I really am and what I want. I can't depend on you for that." The silence between them dragged on, heavy and uncomfortable. Lucas seemed to struggle to find an answer, but Ashley no longer wanted to hear more. The image of the journal's author, so strong and resilient, filled her mind. She looked into Lucas's eyes and with a deep sigh said, "I need time. Time for myself, to understand who I am without you." Lucas opened his mouth, but the words failed him. He watched her as she walked away, a whirlwind of emotions in his gaze. As she walked away, Ashley felt both relief and fear at the same time. The hurricane that had devastated her city now seemed to be a metaphor for her life. She was in the process of rebuilding, and that required courage. Back at the library, Ashley felt drawn to the journal, now more than ever. She remembered a passage that spoke of the strength that comes from pain, about how each scar becomes part of who we are. As she opened the journal, the author's words enveloped her like a tight embrace, offering comfort and clarity. "Sometimes true love is the one we find within ourselves," she read aloud, feeling tears well up in her eyes. "Betrayal may hurt us, but it can also set us free." These words touched her deeply. She understood that the path ahead was uncertain, but now she was willing to face it. Whatever happened, Ashley knew she would no longer be led by fear. She was ready to find her true essence, and the journal would be her guide on this journey of self-discovery. With a new sense of purpose, she decided that, like the author, she too could write her own story, a story where strength and independence were at the center. And with that, a new chapter in her life was about to begin. Ashley was sitting on a wooden bench in the square in front of the library, the morning sun warming her face, but her heart carried a weight that prevented her from enjoying the moment. The hurricane had passed, but the emotional consequences of the storm still haunted her. Next to her, Lucas approached, his gaze filled with a mix of expectation and concern. "Ashley, you're different," he said, trying to be casual, but the tension in his voice was unmistakable. "I was worried about you. What happened that day at the library?" She took a deep breath, feeling adrenaline course through her veins. The journal's pages were still fresh in her mind, and the author's words echoed like a mantra of courage. "I realize that I can't live in the shadow of what you expect of me, Lucas. I need to be true to myself." Lucas frowned, visibly confused. "What do you mean by that? Are you talking about your insecurities again? I thought we had already gotten past that." "It's not just about insecurities," Ashley replied, standing up and facing him. "It's about knowing who I am, what I want for my life. And honestly, I don't feel like you're by my side on this journey." "You're being irrational," he retorted, his voice rising slightly. "I've always been here for you. What more do you want? I'm your support." She felt a wave of frustration. "You don't understand. What I want isn't blind support. It's freedom. It's having the chance to explore who I really am and what I want to do. And that includes moving away from you." Lucas took a step forward, his tone changing to a veiled threat. "You don't know what you're saying, Ashley. Do you really think you can just leave me like that? You have no idea what I'm capable of." Ashley's heart raced. The revelation of Lucas's true character hit her like a blow. The journal's words about true love and the strength that comes from overcoming now sounded even more relevant. "I'm not afraid of you anymore, Lucas. What you did to me, to others, won't go unpunished. I'm no longer the insecure girl you can manipulate at will." He smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. "You think you can expose me? You have no proof. No one will believe you. You're alone in this." Ashley's determination grew, fueled by the stories in the journal that were now part of her. "I may not have physical proof, but I have something more powerful, my voice, and I'm going to use it." She turned and began to walk away, her heart pounding with the adrenaline of freedom. "I'm going to tell the truth, Lucas, not just about us, but about your lies and betrayals. People need to know who you really are." "You'll regret it," he followed her, his voice now full of anger and contempt. "You don't know who you're dealing with." Ashley stopped and looked at him one last time, the anger and pain now replaced by inner strength. "I know exactly who you are, and this is the last time you'll threaten me. I'm not your prey anymore." With those words, she walked towards the library, where the daylight now seemed brighter than ever. The journal, not just an old paper object, but a symbol of her transformation, guided her. Upon entering, she felt enveloped by a new purpose. Time passed, and Ashley became an active voice in the community, revealing the truths that had once imprisoned her. Lucas, exposed by his actions, lost not only his reputation, but also the control he had over her life. As Ashley wrote her new story, inspired by the chronicles of the mysterious author, her heart opened to the idea of new love, a love that wasn't based on lies but on authenticity and mutual respect. She looked at the horizon, the light breeze caressing her face, and smiled as she realized she was finally free, ready to start her life over and follow in the footsteps of the author who taught her to be brave. Have you ever stopped to think about the lessons life teaches you in the most difficult moments? Maybe that situation that seemed like the end of the world was actually the beginning of something new. Are we prepared to see the light in the midst of darkness, or are we blinded by fear and pain? Today's story reminds us that life is unpredictable and that sometimes we need to go through the darkest night to find the brightest light. So, what are you going to do with that? Will you keep running from your shadows, or will you face them, believing that an unexpected solution may be on the way? If this reflection touched you, take advantage and don't forget to click on the video that's appearing on your screen now. In my opinion, it's one of the best stories I've ever told, the most emotional. And if you liked what you just heard, you'll definitely love this other story too. So subscribe to the channel, click on the video that's on your screen now, and I'll see you in a few seconds.